musician, and he was talking about how like the songwriting process isn't particularly enjoyable sometimes.
Yeah.
You just keep like, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You keep just like hammering away at it quite often with no results, and eventually it just like drops into your lap like out of nowhere. And that was 100% what that song was like.
But when you find what you're looking for, just come back and find me. Just come back and find me.
Welcome to the Musician Secrets podcast. Today I have Will Bryant with me. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited because I found your song "Find Me." Don't ask me how, because I don't. I think it was suggested to me over Spotify or something like something like that, or it was a playlist. I don't, so much music, but that was one of the songs that just stood out. I'm like, I gotta ask him if he wants to be on here. So thank you so much for getting back to me. And
I'm glad you found it.
Yeah. Just a very easy question that I like to ask everyone. What got you, where are you from? What got you into songwriting? What got you into music? Basically just your journey from kid to where you are now.
It's quite like an up and down journey, I guess. Because I'd say I'm the youngest of 4 siblings.
Oh, I'm the
two
oldest.
Parents. Yeah. A lot of people meet me and say they can tell I'm the youngest, but I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But like our family of 6, we're kind of split in the middle. Like we all like appreciate the arts and stuff, but like there's kind of 3 of us that are probably more kind of practical and I don't know, better academically, I guess.
Yeah.
And then the other 3 that are like the musical, not particularly bright ones, except for my dad. My dad's an absolute genius. But me and my dad he was like an organ scholar and was like a really good classical singer. And then my older sister, she was also like an incredible cathedral chorister, like a really good singer. And yeah, I was in like choirs and stuff growing up. It was one of those, you see so many singers that there's like photos of them as a kid, like with a microphone, and they're I was destined to be a singer. Like I always like enjoyed music. I'd say for most of my life, I was wanting to be, when I was little, I wanted to be a sportsman. I wanted to be like a professional rugby player. That obviously didn't happen. Then I kind of moved to theatre and like drama. Acting was what I wanted to do more than anything up until like a year ago, to be honest. And yeah, I was in choirs and things all the way through school. Played the trumpet for a few years, didn't really get very far. I think what I've started to realize was kind of doing lessons at school and like singing lessons and trumpet lessons and being in choirs. I kind of just like approached music in a different way. Like I grew up doing more classical stuff, classical singing, and was in like orchestras and things. And I think like towards sixth form, so like kind of 16, 17, I was just like, I'd never done music in a way that I wanted to. And like I'd started teaching myself the guitar when I was like 17, and I brought it into one of my singing lessons, and I was doing like 18th century Italian sonatas or whatever. And I brought in a guitar and I was like, hey, I was wondering if you could teach me about some pop stuff, like use my voice in a different way. And the teacher was like, no, I'm not here to do that. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to stop my singing lessons then. And I went down a bit of an Ed Sheeran route, which kind of worked because of the hair. Teaching myself just like my favorite songs on guitar and like putting 15-second covers up on Instagram. And yeah, I became like amongst like friends, like the singing guy. And I started to get a feeling that people thought my voice was nice. And then, when I went to uni, I started like playing around on GarageBand. And I mean, I always had this idea that when I would go to university, so I went to university in Bristol to study theatre, still with the goal that I would leave Bristol and then be on the West End and be a stage actor. And music was just like something I thought was fun. And I kind of went in with that. I thought it was going to be like a movie. I was going to walk in and like meet these incredible musicians and like join a band, and we were gonna like take over the world. And I actually met like no one. um, one of my best friends in the world, a guy called Harry, he was doing like hip hop beat. He's like heavily influenced by Kanye. He was making loads of really cool hip hop beats. I saw him producing, and I was like, that's cool. I want to start teaching myself how to do computery music.
Yeah.
But I didn't meet any like bandmates or anything at all. And just kept teaching myself GarageBand and then Logic, and then moved into, I just started to like listen to music differently. And I kind of, there's like 2 music lives of mine, like up until I was 17, kind of doing the lessons and doing the school structure, and then kind of taking a break out, and then kind of rediscovering like commercial music. And I mean, I'm still influenced by pretty much every genre under the sun. But yeah, that's kind of where I've got to now. I'm like studying a songwriting and production course. And yeah, that's kind of I didn't want to go on for too long. That's
that's perfect.
Fairly brief kind of summary of the journey, I guess.
Wow, that is a roller coaster ride. Like that was, usually, they know. I mean, it depends. Like I love to hear the stories because they're kind of similar and then very different. So you have like people that just know off the bat, like I'm gonna be a singer, and then people are like kind of figuring things out. And I did not have that at all. I didn't have like my mom plays the cello, so she has more like the classical influence, but I didn't really have anyone that like, I don't know, I don't have the typical story. I started singing when I was 4 and stuff like that. But what was the moment where you're like, music could be like, I don't know, because it was theater for you for a very long time. Like what made you like, was it like a light bulb moment, like, okay, it's music, or was it like a gradual journey into the music world? I don't know.
Kind of light bulb moment, I guess. Just like in that period where I like was finishing school, I was listening to a lot of Laney, if you've heard of them, like a band from the US, the 1975, Frank Ocean. And I've just, it was quite light bulb in that I just started to suddenly like listen to music in a different way, like even not in like a performative sense. If it would come on the radio or on my Spotify was always just like in the background, like if I'm going on a run or like at a pre-drinks before a night out, it was always just like something you have on in the background. And I started to just listen to a bit like, oh, that snare sounds like that, or that piano sounds like that, and start to like go quite in depth, which then lent to the whole production thing. And then people, I've been lucky in that people have said that I've got a nice singing voice, and then I was like, okay, well, I'll try and write some things. And I mean, some of those early things I wrote, I wouldn't play anybody. But yeah, it's been quite like I feel like I've got to quite a decent place after heading in this direction for only kind of 3 and a bit years. And I think a lot of that's kind of come through teaching myself production. I mean, I spend most of my time on my laptop, just on Ableton, like making things, trying to make things sound cool. That's the kind of Do
you produce all your songs? Because you have, what is it, 5 songs out right now? Did you produce them all as well?
Oh, so I should say with those 5, there's like the ones that the Seb Masters ones. Those are like, that's like a mate of mine from school, who he writes them and produces them, but he, for some reason, I've been telling him for years that his voice is great, but he hates his voice. So he gets me, and he's got a couple of other people involved as well, but he's got me to sing on a bunch of his songs, which has boosted my Spotify profile for sure. But of mine, so like Be Mine and Find Me, Be Mine was fully me, production wise, and then I sent it to a friend of mine who's like a really good producer. He's working with some big cool people nowadays, so I'm trying to keep him very
Yeah.
very close.
Yeah.
Yeah, he mixed that for me.
Yeah.
And then Find Me was, I mean, the whole way of meeting him was mad, because there's another guy I was at Bristol with who I've always kind of looked up to. A friend of mine called Harry Manton, his artist name Harry Strange. Don't know if you've heard of him. Also a redhead. He did a gig when we were in second year at Bristol, like his first headline gig. And I was always thinking he was like quite a few steps ahead of me. He already had quite a lot of songs out. And yeah, he was doing really well. And he'd asked me to open for his set. And I didn't really, I probably had like 2 finished songs at that point. And I was like, oh, I need to really like finish. Yeah, I like panic wrote like 3 new songs in a week. And it was just me and a keyboard playing these songs. And at the end, this guy, Duncan, was the drummer for Harry. He came over and was like, I loved everything you did. I produce Harry's music.
Yeah.
Can I produce you? And I was like, yes, please.
Yes.
I then sent him the Be Mine mix, and he didn't really he didn't add anything to it. He just kind of made it sound better. And then Find Me, he then said, right, you need to come for like a proper studio day. And I went to his apartment. He had like a home studio set up, and we did like most of it, to be honest, in that first day. And that was like more of a co-producing role. And then we've got another one that's coming. What's the date today? The date isn't in the diary, but it's coming soonish, which is also like co-produced by him. It kind of depends, because like I'm really critical about my production. And if I produce something and then send it to someone like him and then he sends it back, I'm like, oh, mine sounded so bad. Like I'm sure every like musician has that kind of thing. Like your ears are just like mean to you. So that's something I kind of struggle with. Trying to like listen to my own music from like a third person perspective. But it's, you know, there's very hot and cold days. One thing, I'll make something and it sounds to me pretty perfectly mixed, and another day it will sound absolutely dreadful. So it kind of depends. Like I like the kind of dynamic with this guy Duncan Brookfield, by the way, is his name. He's got an artist project. He's awesome. With like our dynamic of, I can like produce something and send it to him, and he can add something and send it back, and I can add something. That's pretty cool. I like that. I kind of want that I'm good enough to be able to do it. And if he's like, oh, maybe this idea, I can go away and actually put it down on my laptop rather than just asking the producer to make everything for you. But yeah, in that sense, it's become like quite a collaborative thing. I'm quite open to bringing in more producers and stuff. And yeah, I'm working with the song After Next is being like mixed and co-produced by a guy in New York called Jake Labassi. And yeah, I'm really liking that kind of idea of me kind of coming up with the starting point production wise. And then sending it to someone else to basically make better. I know nothing about mixing. I say I do. I put like, I really don't. When these producers send something back finished, I'm just like completely baffled as to how they make it sound like that. So yeah, I'm always trying to make my production a bit better. I also want to end up producing other people at some point. Like I'd love for someone to listen to a song of mine and think, that's the kind of vibe I like. Would you produce something for me? I'd love to do that. So yeah, I kind of bully myself production wise. I tell myself I'm bad one day, tell myself I'm great the next. So yeah, I just got to find a balance, hopefully, somewhere.
That's cool. Yeah. Do you have like, is there any advice, like any tricks that you would say, like production wise, that you can kind of use, like people that are trying to, that are probably new to the production and don't really know how, you know, they have a song, but they don't really know how to go about it? Are there any tips and tricks that you use?
Number one, YouTube. YouTube is an absolute goldmine. I would say that people are sleeping on YouTube, but I know they're not. I know everybody uses it a lot, but like,
Mhm.
yeah, I think don't like at the start of my process, it was very easy to listen to something, and then particularly when I had like GarageBand, which has like one sound on it.
Yeah.
I listened to like a 1975 song or something with all these synths and auto tune and guitars and cool drums, and then be like, oh, I'm going to go and try and make it. And I think that's the best place to start, is trying to copy things.
Yeah.
So like that friend of mine, Harry, that did hip hop beats, he would remake like Kanye beats. He even remade, I think, Power. No, it wasn't Power. He made one of Kanye's songs, remade it so well that when it went up on YouTube, it got taken down for copyright because it was that accurate. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Wow.
So I think that was like a good place to start. I think before you really know much about production, it's quite overwhelming. Like when you open any of the software, there's so much going on. Yes. And I think you've just got to try and take it step by step and be like, I love that synth sound. Go to find out what that sound is, go to YouTube, watch a whole load of tutorials on how to make it, and then go in. I think that's where I approached it more, because I approached it all from the production point of view rather than like a songwriting point of view. The songwriting normally comes kind of second for me, which I'm trying to change. I'm trying to write things like just me and a piano and then add stuff. I just get so carried away. I'm like, oh, the drums sound so cool. Let me add bass and let me da. And so yeah, I think just take it like step by step and learn each bit as you go. Because if you're just like, day one, I'm going to remake a Kanye song, like you're not going to be able to do that, and that's just going to kind of get you down. So just kind of work in little chunks and be like, I'm going to try and do the same vocals on this day, and then use YouTube. There's so much on there.
For sure.
Other tips, don't buy plugins. I think a lot of, eventually buy plugins and things, but don't, like, I think a lot of people, now I'm doing this course and meeting loads of other producers and writers and things. It comes up in conversation about how artists are so often like underpaid, and it's hard to get opportunities and hard to get heard and seen and stuff. And I just think it's another stress to be like, oh, I'm like a poor artist, I can't afford any of this stuff. And it's like, if you get Ableton or you get Logic or something, it comes with so many things. Just learn that all before you start spending your paychecks on this certain kind of compressor. That it was like a disclosure. Their live streams they've been doing over the lockdown period, the two Disclosure brothers, like, go on Twitch and do like an hour showing you how they've made one of their songs, or they make a whole song from scratch. And they were all saying like all the plugins they buy just make a song like 5%, 10%, 5% better. It's just like a slight professional kind of lift. Everything else you need to make it sound good is already in there. So I think like get the software and just play around in simple steps is probably what I would say. But I don't have a huge amount of wisdom to impart, to be honest.
That's awesome, because I talked with Jeremy Higgins on the podcast as well, and he said the exact same thing. He's like, I did this little, exercise where he says he'll listen to songs and be like, ooh, I like the synth or I like the vocals, and then he'll try to like copy that and see if how close he can get to doing that, right? Obviously it's an exercise. You don't want to like publish it and then obviously get taken down for copyrights, but that will get you in trouble. But I think that's I'm not a producer, but I'm trying to kind of learn, because it's I want to make sure that the song kind of sounds the way I would like to, so I can at least send a demo to a producer and be like, you know what. Anyways, but that's what he said. And then the second one was, I did I bought a production course, and he also said you don't need a lot of plugins or any plugins. Like, if you know how to EQ right, if you know how to do your compression right and all that stuff that's already in there, and the reverb, if you know how to use it, then that already sounds great. And every other plugin just makes it like 5% better. And he made a track only with the plugins that you got in Logic. Didn't use any other bot plugins, nothing. And then he did a second track where he used like this expensive compressor and all the crazy stuff you could get, and you could barely hear
barely told everything.
Like, no, he was like, okay, these are the two tracks. The one is like totally cheap. The other one has the best stuff in it. Which one is which? And you're just like,
you can't tell. Yeah. and like the regular people, like the vast majority of people listening aren't like music nerds that can listen out for like a certain frequency. It's just going to be like on the radio for them to like dance along to. You don't need to stress about that. I'd probably say like on a non-production side then as well for kind of songwriters, it's like what I said I want to kind of get back to is, you know, there's a lot of pressure to like make sure there's so many different pressures coming at you from like every direction about making sure you sound different and authentic and and I think it does all just come down to just like a good song. And like no matter how many, you know, if I go on my Ableton project and there's like 150 tracks and there's all these layers and stuff, like most of Frank Ocean songs are just like a synth and his voice, and then like maybe a drum comes in later. Like it's just, if you've got the good melody, good story, good vocal, that's the thing. So don't stress about all these plugins and all these effects. Just get GarageBand, which comes free with your laptop, and open up a piano and just write the most simple, easy things. And you literally don't have to spend a penny except the laptop, obviously. But yeah, that's probably what I'd say.
That's the thing. Like if I think a lot of people, and this is what I was guilty of, or what I thought is like production is like this, you know, the wrapping, like not the wrapping paper, what is it, like the duct tape, you know, kind of where thinking like if you, I talked with Purple, I had her on. It's not, I don't think it's out yet, but by the time this comes out, this will be out. But she said, you know, it needs to be a good song first. So if it doesn't sound good with just you on a piano or guitar, production is not really going to make it better. Like it's like
for sure. Yeah, no, I agree.
Production as a duct tape to kind of make this song better when it's really, you know, she said production only makes the song like 20% better or maybe 10% better. So if the song is already at 100% and you add production, it's going to be 120%. But if you're at like 50, it's going to be at 70%. So, you know, that was a cool way of looking at it because I've never seen it that way before.
Yeah.
Which, but anyways, that was a little rant, but
no, I agree.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, for you now as a producer, this might be even more tense, but I don't know if you ever felt that way, that when you're listening to music now, even if it's just like in the background or on the radio or, you know, played somewhere, like my brain automatically already analyzes stuff.
Yeah, it's so annoying.
Do you have the same problem, or is that just me?
Yeah, and and I try not to particularly, like I obviously know music-y people and a lot of my friends love music and stuff. I obviously try not like bring it up and sound annoying as hell because you know we're trying to watch a film and there's like something that like the soundtrack plays and I'm like that's too, and it's just like no, don't say anything. You don't need to say anything. On like even like a night out, you're in a club or something, I'm like dissecting the bass is too loud and all this kind of thing. It's just like, just enjoy it, just try and ignore it for 5 seconds. But yeah, I get what you mean. You start to dissect everything you hear, but I think that's cool. I think it's like I've not really done this yet. I don't know if it's maybe becoming a bit of a what's the word, like just like a bit of a classic, like trying to be different musician thing, but those kinds of things where artists go around and like record like live things in the world, like the sound of a car and sample it into their music. If you're just sometimes you kind of overanalyze a song on the radio and it's really annoying, but if you kind of have that ear anyway, then you're walking past things in your day-to-day life and being like, oh, that sounds cool, and you can in theory then just take that. A lot of people now are like, oh, I like took a break from music and I made like a new project that's all like sounds of the world. It's like, yeah, that's been done, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of yeah, it's a blessing and a curse, I think.
Yeah.
Sure.
I had to think of Phineas because he just did he.
Oh yeah, he's the king of doing
like,
that.
Random stuff, yeah, just like, well, not random. They are fitting, but it's just I've never heard like there you'll hear like the helicopter in one of his albums, and like I don't know. He said there was like they were crossing the road, and obviously like for do you know?
In Australia, when you cross the street, it does the dee, and that's the hi-hat for bad guy. It's a joke. It's unreal. He's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. He's just wandering around.
Yeah.
And like picking up on day-to-day things and putting them in music, and it's blowing people's minds. So like he's doing it incredibly well. And I think that's the cool side of it for sure. You're kind of always tuned into everything around you, I guess. But I'm not saying I'm doing that. There's no way I'm doing that. I wish I could do that.
It's like the next level.
Yeah.
What about the songwriting process? So for Find Me or for any of your songs, do you have like a certain songwriting structure or a certain way of doing it, or is it different every time?
It's definitely different every time. I'm definitely still kind of figuring it out. Like I said earlier, because I have quite a lot of different influences, like across different genres. Quite a lot of my songs will, and I know the two that are released out of Be Mine and Find Me kind of exist in the same like sonic world, I guess, but things in the pipeline that I plan on releasing are all quite a lot of them sound quite different, which I like, but it means that if I was just like a singer at a piano, then a whole album would probably all be written much the same. But yeah, they're definitely not written the same way. Find Me I've got into like a really annoying habit, which I'm trying to kick, which is that I end up leaving these big spaces of time in the middle of a song, which I think is a bad thing. It ended up working quite well with Find Me in like a really like coincidental way, because this was like 2 Octobers ago or something. I went to Duncan's studio in London, and he had a bit of a chat, and he immediately started like playing the chords, and he was like, I thought these chords would fit a song of yours, and I was like, sweet, they sound perfect. And we were just kind of chucking ideas around, and the hook just like while wandering around his flat. So that day, one of my best friends from university was moving to do her year abroad in Madrid. And I was like messaging her that day as she was like going to the airport and whatever. And I think that was just like somewhere in the back of my head about like someone you care about leaving the country. And so then I was wandering around, and it was literally just as he was playing the keys that, my home, this can't be my hometown without you, came to me. And he was like, oh, that's the hook. And it's what's so annoying is sometimes you have those moments where it just comes, and other times it takes like weeks and weeks and weeks for you to get like one word.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we both thought it sounded amazing after that. We had like pretty much the chorus and like some of the first verse. And then I literally sat on it. That was October 2019. And I was like going back to uni and like playing all my housemates, saying it to my family, being like, just listen to this 30 seconds of it, because that's all that's been done. And I was like, so I thought it was like unbelievably good. And then lockdown happened, and I couldn't arrange to go and see him in the studio again. And I went home, and he was in London. And I had a pretty like bad lockdown, like creatively. Like I spent some time making music, but I have a friend on my course who used lockdown. He basically he released his first one today. His artist name is For the Brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
And he's
Oh,
released
yeah,
his
I
first
think
single
I
today.
saw it in
Yeah, I
the
put it
story.
on my story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he basically wrote like 2 albums worth of songs in lockdown. I wrote like literally nothing. But I was trying not to like put pressure on myself, and just, you know, the whole world had kind of stopped. So I was like, it's fine. You can just sit at home and do nothing. And then after, like in the UK, like heading into the summer, everything kind of relaxed a bit, lockdown wise. And I went back to Bristol to have like a couple more weeks in my house with my mates before we all had to move out. And I went back a couple of days early with this song, and I was like, I'm going to get this finished.
Yeah.
Because it's heading up to being a year since we first started doing it. And then I kind of like going back to Bristol, you know, 8-9 months after I first started it, kind of lent like a whole other perspective on the song. And then the second verse is all about like stuff to do with my girlfriend, and being back in Bristol and how that affected things. And it kind of all like wrapped it up in like a weird circle. And yeah, it took a while to, like, because I would always just listen to it, and I just couldn't come up with anything. I'm just very particular about, like, I'm very picky. You know, I can have it playing in my ears. A lot of people can just go up to a microphone and just come out with cool words. I like, it takes me a while until not even necessarily cool, but until it's something that I think sounds nice. And just nothing was coming in that whole time. And it eventually just came to me. And like my brother, even, he sent me a podcast recently with this clip. I can't remember who the people were, but someone was interviewing a musician, and he was talking about how like the songwriting process isn't particularly enjoyable sometimes. You just keep like, you know what I mean? You keep just like hammering away at it quite often with no results, and eventually it just like drops into your lap, like out of nowhere. And that was 100% what that song was like. Be Mine, I wrote in like a day. And that's what I mean. They were like polar opposite songs. Other ones the one that's being released next is one that I started in March and finished only a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, I just got a habit of like sitting on songs for too long. So yeah, process wise, that's a bad habit of mine, which probably inhibits the process. But yeah, I like to be pretty, I don't know, I've come to realize, like, I'm not a poet. I think in my day-to-day speech, I'm not, I wish I was particularly poetic and use great language and stuff, but I just speak like any normal person. So when it comes to songwriting, I feel I can get a bit more like experimental, but I also quite like having really relatable conversational lyrics that just sound like I'm kind of just chatting to you, but I'm singing it along. So that's kind of lyrically what I do. I'm trying to, like, as I say, I'm still trying to find my sound. So I'm trying to mix it up and like try different writing styles and things all the time. But yeah, I'm just always trying to draw on. I think there's a sense that I've seen a lot of people talk about like they've not had particularly emotional or difficult lives, and then they're like, oh, I don't have anything to write about. And like I've had a pretty easy go at life so far. So there's not like, but then it gets into the territory of like, sure, if some really awful things have happened, then you can write some really awfully sad songs about it. But if you don't necessarily want to write sad songs, draw on all the happy stuff. I think people get it in their heads that they've got to find some like unbelievable concept. When, like, you know, what percentage of songs are about love anyway? Like 99.9%.
Exactly.
So yeah, I just think for me personally, I just try and make it as simple as possible. I think that's how the lyrics come out. Is it like I kind of put it all in my notes app or in like a notebook, just like every word I feel like resonates with the instrumental that I've made. And then almost like in a text to myself, just like really chatty and stuff, and then just pull lines out of there. I listen to a lot of, I'm kind of listening to conversations that I'm having with people or that other people are having with me, and like take certain lines and phrases. But it's like always adapting. Sometimes I'll like be walking down the street and I'll think of a hook, and I'll be like, oh, I need to go home and write that.
Write it down.
And other times it takes me like 10 months to write a single word. So but yeah, still kind of learning and experimenting, I guess.
I think a lot, there's this misconception that you can only write if something like really horrible has happened or whatnot. Like songwriting is just an outlet for emotions. So as long as you're feeling something, you can write a song. And we're all human beings, which we feel all sorts of emotions, and that qualifies you to write a song. Who tells you that feeling isn't as qualified to write that? So as long as you're feeling something, which we all are, we all have something to write about. I don't think that you need a horrible life in order to write about something.
No, for sure. I agree.
Write about happy songs and frustrated things, and there's so many different ways of. There's someone
and even just like tell a story, just like
you're telling.
I can remember when I watched like a thing, maybe one of those Genius lyric breakdown things with Billie Eilish talking about bellyache. I remember that being like, I mean, it was quite a few years ago now. The thing that stuck in my head, just her talking about like, it's a completely made up story about being like a serial killer, that your dead friends are in the boot of your car. And she was like, that obviously didn't happen, but I just wrote it because why not? And like, there's loads of Beatles songs that are just like, just random. You can write just about literally anything, just got to make it sound good and kind of make sense a little bit. I think that's just like a lot of people put pressure on themselves to find these deep, meaningful things. Just kind of make it a bit funny if you want to. That's kind of what I'd say about it.
There's so many different perspectives to write about it. I think a lot of people think it has to come from me. If it doesn't come from it. I've written songs from my perspective. I've written songs from someone else's perspective. I took a poem and turned that into a song. Like, it really doesn't matter if you think really, which I don't think. If you think your life is so boring, trust there's someone out there. Slip in someone else's shoes, like Billie Eilish did. Obviously that didn't happen to her, but you can. As songwriters, I think we're very emotional people and very empathetic, and I can put myself in someone else's shoes and be like, from his perspective, what would that look like? From that perspective, what story would that look like? So there's so many endless possibilities as a songwriter. You can do whatever the heck you want to. It's like it can be yours, it can be someone else's story, it can be a poem, it can be whatnot. Like it's really something that it didn't ruin me, but kind of changed it. There was a songwriting challenge I took, and what he said is he always says, "Oh, sounds like a song." So when you're having a conversation, when you're watching TV, if you're whatnot, like there'll be a word in there, or listening to other people's lyrics, they'll be like, sounds like a song. You'll just pick out something, and all the time, again, I also have my note thing, and I'll just have a song title in there or a phrase I liked or whatnot. And when I'm stuck, that's exactly where I go to. Is like, "Ooh, okay, cool," and then kind of go from there. But
well, it's like we were saying with the Phineas thing, and like kind of being in tune with all the sounds that are going on around you. It's like it's the same, like it's everything that's in any, like it all exists already. It's just kind of opening your eyes and having like a look, and like, and you break down some of like some of the Frank Ocean there, they're just, he's just talking about how like nice someone's face is, or like how nice a car is, and it's all really normal. And it all just makes sense, and you're like, whoa, he wrote that about like a girl's face. It's like, it just kind of works. You've just kind of got to, I think you just got to be really relaxed. I think if I ever am thinking like, I'm going to write something today, that's when I can't. It's always got to be like walking down the street or just like humming along in my head, or kind of when I'm not thinking about the songwriting is when I subconsciously think about songwriting, I guess. Like I'm the last person that if I went in that direction, I got signed or got management or whatever and started like meeting with writers and producers. I don't know if it would, I don't know, being like not forced, but like being made to do music in a certain way, I think kind of restricts me a bit. I like just being flexible and relaxed, I guess.
Yeah. There, like, again, there's so many different ways, but I think I'm still learning to like sit down and write a song, because you know, at some point you kind of need to learn it, because you'll sometimes have studio time booked, and you'll be like,
you got to use
it. Like I need to you know, but yeah, you got to start somewhere, and I think like experimenting and just trying to figure out, okay, what can I do, what, you know, what I don't know, what gets the inspirational juices going and stuff like that, rather than, you know, trying to force everything, like you said. Yeah,
for sure. And I think when you are starting out, like you were saying, kind of take a poem, or take a like, oh no, I'm going to forget the name of the film now. I just forgot the name of the film. Like Robbers by the 1975. That whole second half of the song, the "You Look So Cool" thing, is like a line from this really famous film that I now can't remember the name of. But yeah, that kind of thing, just hit like a line in a film and then you write a song around that. Or like when you're just starting, because it can all seem so daunting, like how do I write 3.5 minutes of something? Just like look at something in your room and just write about it. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, the one of the first people I interviewed, her name is Martha, and she brought out a single, her name's December, and basically, and I asked her like how she wrote the song, because it's like lyrically just very poetic and just wow, it just blows you away. It's very cinematic from the production, and I'm like, what is the amazing story behind it? And she's like, my manager gave me a deadline. I didn't know, like the day before, I still didn't have a song. I looked at my window. It was December, snow was out, and so I wrote about what I saw out my window. I'm like,
cool.
Oh,
very cool.
Yeah, you know, and it's an amazing song. It's really cool. But yeah, that's one way of doing it. There's so many ways. But do you think that there are any are there any fears, like when you're making music or when you're releasing music? Are there any like you're like, oh, I'm not quite sure?
I guess because of my, like, if I had to say my influences are like Bon Iver, Frank Ocean, 1975, Chloe, they're like a couple cousins from Melbourne. They do like electronic, like UK garage influenced pop music. Very cool. Like those are all quite different genres, and I think I'm still kind of, I think that comes across. Like if I'm going through all the things I've made, there's so many different styles and sounds in there that you can see are quite clearly influenced from different directions. And just whether I think I have the like fearlessness to just be like, I don't care, I'm going to put it out. But I'd be lying if I said that if I were to, like, if I did an album where there's like a classic kind of pop song and there's like a stripped me and a guitar song, and then there's like more of an electronic dance song, the people are like, oh, this is, it just sounds like it's on shuffle. Like, you know, it, so I think I'm still working out how I can tie all those things in together and make it all make sense, rather than it just sounding like a whole bunch of different genres. But I know that, I'd say a fear is that a lot of people don't like that. Like a lot of people like an album that is, you know, however many songs of a certain style, and it sounds like that band or it sounds like that singer, and you can hit shuffle on that album and it will kind of sound the same. I don't really like that. I get quite bored on albums when it's quite samey. And yeah, I'd say, you know, a worry that people would be like, stay in your lane. If you're doing pop, just do pop songs. And yeah, I try and not be like overly scared about some things. Like, I know it's a scary industry, and there's a lot going on, and it's incredibly hard to get anywhere quite a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But just to, like, I'm incredibly fortunate that what I love doing, like 24 hours a day, is what I hope to be able to make a career out of in some way. And that some people will maybe like it, some people might not, and just gotta release what you want to release. And I think there's less of a fear, I think, or a pressure in that, you know, independent artistry, it's definitely not easy, but there's things that have made it easier and more attractive for people in that. Like, I've been using AWOL, which costs nothing to distribute your song on. And, you know, I got friends to do some of the artwork and friends to produce. And, you know, I've not invested like a huge, I think if I'd like spent all this money on an ad campaign and on all these studio time and and then I put out a song and it gets like 5 plays, then I'd be furious. But I think with the whole bedroom producing vibe, just kind of making something you think sounds cool and just chucking it online, and it's obviously amazing when people like it, but I think that's what's nice. You can just kind of do it behind your laptop. You can just chuck music out, and if people like it, they like it. If they don't, then they don't. So yeah, I try and not be like too scared of things. I mean, I've not got like any hate or anything yet. I think that'll be something I'm probably, if I ever get someone commenting on my Instagram or something saying that I suck, I think I'm the kind of person that's like, ow, that's mean. But yeah, at this stage, there's nothing that really scares me too much.
That's good.
Just kind of a fear of being criticized for like doing what you think's fun.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you spend hours making a song that in your headphones at 2 a.m. you're like dancing around your room to, and you put it out and someone's like, this is awful, then you're just like, oh. So yeah, just gotta tell yourself in those situations that person knows nothing. And if you like it, then you like it, and it doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks. That's what I try and tell myself. Yeah.
Gosh, there's a quote. I saw it on Instagram and it just changed. It was something like, people that are judging you or bullying you basically are people that are usually like I don't want to see this in levels, but in this case it kind of makes sense. They're like usually are getting less done than you, because people that are kind of, you know, above you are doing more, getting more done, they don't have the time to criticize whatever you're doing, right? So or it's just like usually people that say,
that's a good point,
you suck, or this could be better, or usually it's not even like good like critique as in, oh, you could work on your levels or you could work on your EQing or something like that. It's just like, oh, this sucks, or this is dumb, or super unuseful. And those are usually people that have no idea about
they've got nothing better to do,
because the people that really know what they're talking about, they're so busy, they don't have time to like
yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
So
yeah, I like that.
Anyways, I have one last question, then I'll get you let you go, because it's been a while. So thank you again for your time.
That's all right. No, I'm enjoying it.
But what do you think makes a good song?
Ooh.
That's for last.
I mean, I don't think it kind of I think it's something that can be like a good song. I feel on like a base level is a universe, like it should be universal. The idea of what's a good song, you take like Hey Jude by the Beatles, right? Great song, lovely song.
Yeah.
I would kind of hope that you could play that to any music lover in the world, and they would like, even if you loved like death metal or like drum and bass, everybody can still come back and be like, that's nice. Or like a great like Michael Jackson song that is like you can't help yourself but dance along to. Yeah, so I've spoken about this with some music people, because then it comes into like, you know, is a good song necessarily one that makes you want to kind of dance? I don't necessarily think so. I think making it relatable, and making it like pretty, for lack of a better word, like the instrument is like, I have those certain moments, there's like a certain chord progression, you know, that just makes you like super attached to a certain song, and you can't wait until like a minute 35 for that chord to come in. Yeah. Just yeah, I think relatability. I think I'm losing just names of songs and names of things at the moment. But
they
like
always leave your mind when you need
just
they're gone. Like,
yeah. But I think if there's like I can't think of any kind of classic songs that are really kind of weird. They all kind of center in on quite like a fundamental like human emotion or human feeling. And of course, quite a lot of the time that comes back to like relationships or love, but it's just like approached in a different way, in like a particularly iconic way. And yeah, I think a song that can even make you feel something you've not been through yourself, like Hey Jude, Take That Again. You know, I would have first listened to that when I was like 5 or something. Okay. I had no idea what they're singing about, but like I loved it. I didn't get what it was, but a song that, you know, even if you're a child or you're old, you're like, oh, that makes so much sense. I can like picture myself in that situation. Yeah, it's a really hard question. I don't know. I think it's definitely like my kind of perfect song is probably different to other people's. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's definitely different to other people's. But yeah, I'd say like relatability and like, what's the word? Relatability and kind of like comfort and like familiarity. You know, if someone sings a song for like how much they love their parents, you know, you could listen to it and be like, oh, I have parents, they're great. You know, or like yeah, or you know, the classic is like, you know, someone talking about like a heartbreak or something, and everybody around the world is like, oh, I've been there. And you know, for the people that aren't particularly musical, maybe hearing a song that like perfectly paints a situation you were in, and then, you know, you've been in your breakup and then you listen to it and then you cry in bed a bit, or you know, I think just songs that tap into like personal experience and are relatable. That's like the 10th time I've said relatable, but yeah, that's probably what I would go with. Personally.
So they're relatable.
Yeah, I think so.
That's a good one for sure.
Yeah. What would you say?
For me, it's emotion. If the song doesn't evoke any emotion, then what's the point? It doesn't matter if it makes you cry, it makes you happy, makes you want to dance, makes you want to party. If it, you know, makes you want to, I don't know, some sort of emotion. If it's not there, then I don't know. If I don't feel it, I don't play it.
Yeah.
Simple rule.
I like that.
It's very interesting because my first lesson that I had with my guitar teacher in Birmingham, he asked me that question, and I'm like, I have no idea. Like, it's the hardest question.
It's a hard question. It really is.
But everyone at some point needs to ask that question. Like, every songwriter, every producer, every musician is like, how do I make the best song? What is a good song? So it's very interesting. Everyone has a different opinion on that, obviously. But
well, it's probably interesting. I've got a playlist I've been making that's like, I've called it the special sauce, which is like all of like, cause I've got hundreds of playlists of just like songs I like, and then this one that's like the songs I feel have like made me the way I am now, like the properly special songs to me. I mean, it was supposed to be like a 10-song playlist, and it's now like 5 hours long.
I was about to say that never happens.
Yeah,
a short playlist.
But I feel like in theory, if I went through, you know, all of those songs probably have something in common. which is why I love them all so much. I feel everybody has that. And yeah, I think it's an important question to ask. I think you can kind of find out a lot about yourself if you work out what it is about music you absolutely love, and what is, even for non-musical people, if they are trying to, I mean, I struggled answering that.
Yeah.
If you tried to get non-musical people to try and answer that, you know, it's
Like,
it's a hard question. But yeah, I like emotion's a good one as well, for sure.
But it needs to be relatable. Obviously, if it's not relatable either, then be like,
relatable emotion.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. There you go. Double whammy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for being on here.
Thanks so much for having me.
A very lovely conversation. This is,
yeah, it's very easy.
New, and especially I'm not a producer, and kind of get, hopefully at some point, but I'll get there. But I'm just, just a learning stuff. So that was very insightful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
People that where can they find you? Where can they find your social media stuff? Where can they or on Spotify and stuff like that?
My social media probably needs a bit of I need to kind of go over it and make sure everything's in the right place, but mainly I'm on Instagram at William Edward Bryant, or one word. And then on Spotify and Apple Music, I kind of always just talk about it just being Spotify, but it is on Apple Music as well, as Will Bryant. There is another Will Bryant out there somewhere doing music I don't know about, and his music keeps coming on my profile, and I'm trying to work out how to get rid of it. But yeah, find me and Be Mine, Will Bryant, on Spotify if you want to find those. And there's lots more music coming this year, so yeah,
that's good.
Keep your ears and eyes peeled, I guess.
Do you have a date for that stuff yet, or is it just in general?
I mean, it was supposed to be end of January, then supposed to be end of February. Things keep getting pushed. Yeah, I don't really like having rigid plans for these kind of things. But soonish. I want like an EP later in the year, a couple of singles before that. Yeah, that's the plan. So yeah.
Great. Yeah, I'll link everything up below so they will find the right.
Awesome. Yes, please. Yeah, thank you.
So none of that. So make sure you're the right one. William Edward Bryant, right, on Instagram?
Yeah.
Is that okay? So go follow you there, and I'm pretty sure you'll keep everyone updated on the singles coming out. Probably. Yeah. So that's probably the go-to hub. Thank you so much. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for listening to the Musician's Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Alise Koa. I hope you got to learn something new about producing or songwriting or mental health when it comes to making music. The fears that most musicians have when making music. So everything that's behind the scenes, behind making music, you will learn it here, because I am basically talking to anyone that makes music all around the world. So I have a great privilege to learn all of that, and I can't wait to share it with you all. So follow this podcast if you enjoyed what you heard today, and go and share it with somebody that you think could enjoy this episode as well, benefit and learn from it. And as always, there's more information at alisekoa.com/podcast. Talk to you soon. Bye.
The streets are empty, the buildings too. This place seems soulless, baby, 'cause of you. Can I say something?